Every year at this time we celebrate excellence in the Hispanic community, and when you think about it, unfortunately there's a lot of excellence that goes unrecognized and uncelebrated. When you think about Hispanic Heritage Month, you might think about leaders such as Republican Senator Marco Rubio of Florida and Democratic Mayor of San Antonio, Julian Castro, who both actually got to speak at the Republican and Democratic National Conventions as keynote speakers. Great people. In their speeches, however, the main message was not about their personal success. If you really paid attention to their message, it was about sacrifice. And it was about the sacrifices that their families made so that they could be in that situation. And those are the kind of accomplishments that I want us to look at this Hispanic Heritage Month. Our families have made tremendous sacrifices so that we could be here, so that we could get a college education, and so that we could live the American dream, often with them not being able to live that dream when they first get here. So if you think about what Marco Rubio said, his parents came from Cuba, and they came to the United States to make a better life for their children. And he mentioned that his father worked as a bartender, and his father worked in the back of the room behind the bar. And he said that so that one day his son could be at the front of the room behind the podium. Those were some very powerful words. That is something we're celebrating. Similar story with Mayor Castro. His mother worked very hard for civil rights so that one day he could hold a microphone instead of a mom. Those are things that I feel are very strong, powerful things in our community that are worth celebrating. My parents they met in the United States, although they were both born and raised in Puerto Rico. And when they decided to get married, they didn't have what they needed to start a family. And that was their dream, was to have a family. Not necessarily to become rich, to become successful, it was to have a family. And they knew that they needed to make some sacrifices to make that happen. So my father joined the military, and my mother postponed her graduate studies so that me and my younger sister could one day have the life that we have today. Those are sacrifices that I don't know if I'll ever be able to match, but I will die trying. And so my parents also instilled two options: college or college. Those are the options. And that in itself is very powerful. Although my father wasn't able to get a degree, he understood the importance. And I'll never forget one of the most influential days that he's had in my life. I had just gotten back from a track meet, was kind of being lazy on the couch, and he was working outside, and he asked me to come outside to help him. And we had a large pile of sand in the back of the yard. This tall, really wide. And he asked me to move that pile of sand from one side of the yard to the other side. I don't ask questions. So I just started shoveling, putting it in a wheelbarrow, taking it to the other side, dumping it out, go back, do the same thing several hours. When I was done, I asked him, it's kind of a weird area of the yard, why are we moving this giant pile of sand? And I asked him what he was going to do with it. And he smiled, and he looked at me, he said, "You don't want to do the hard work that you just did now for a living, so take care of the hard work now and get your college degree." Those words are still and will forever be ingrained in my head. But unfortunately, a lot of kids in our community don't get that kind of message. And even if they had dreams like that, they don't have people to ask questions to. So, where my dream had been to go to the University of Wisconsin-Madison to get a degree in engineering and make my parents happy, it became a lot bigger than that. Through my experiences at college, I found out that it's a lot more than your personal success. True success is measured not in numbers and values, not in dollars, but I feel that it's measured in the amount of impact that you're able to have on others. The amount of lives that you can change, the amount of little kids that you can inspire to do something great someday. And that, again, transformed my life. So sometimes I would catch myself, one of the weirdest, most rewarding experiences is when you cry but you're smiling, because you realize that yes, this is difficult, and yes, there's a lot of bad things going on in our community, but I'm part of that difference, and that's when the smile comes in. is when you know that you're doing something that is going to make that better. And our community faces a ton of challenges. But we, as individuals, can have an impact on that. Sometimes we look at the problem and it looks like a giant mountain, and you don't want to start climbing because you know you can't make it up there. But if you divide it into smaller problems, or if you grab a community, you can start taking that mountain apart. So I like to liken it to, I'm a Milwaukee Brewers fan, born and raised in Milwaukee. For most of my life, they were really, really bad, unfortunately. But I was a hardcore baseball fan. We'd go to games every summer. But we were so bad that one of my favorite things to do was do the wave. And I was a 10-year-old kid. I'd get up, all excited, and say, let's do the wave, everybody. And the first one is just failure, right? Nobody gets up. And then you start getting some people excited around you, and it gets further and further around. And eventually, it goes round and round and round, and we're so bad that it just keeps going and going. But you realize something very powerful there, that one 10-year-old kid with an idea was able to inspire 40,000 plus people to do some crazy little dance thing. Imagine what you could do with something that you're passionate about, with an organization such as those that are represented in this room. Imagine what kind of waves you can start. And I'm glad that you guys are coming together and building this community. Because another thing is you look at things as walls. We look at barriers. But you can also look at it as a wall as an accomplishment. Building a wall, building a building is not something that's easy. But if you look at it as laying a brick, then it becomes feasible. So you don't build walls. There's no wall builders. There's bricklayers. And if each one of these people in this room today took the time to lay one brick as well as they possibly could, after a while, we'll eventually have a wall. And it'll be strong, and it'll stand. And that's what we need in our community. We don't need one big voice that tells everybody to do this and that. We need soldiers on the ground to mobilize and inspire the Latino Hispanic community to build walls, to follow their dreams. Because there's not enough voices out there. We need a lot of them. So, when I look at life, a lot of people look at life as a multiple choice test, or a true or false test. And a lot of us like multiple choice and true or false tests because it's easy, right? You pick yes or no. When you decided to come here today, people who live the life of a true-false test will say, yes, I'm going, or no, I'm going. There's no real mission behind it. Either I'm going to get up early, or I'm not going to get up early. Either I'm going to go and eat some food, or I'm not. But life is more like an essay. You get to choose the words you put in your life. You get to choose the canvas, the color, the content of that essay. If you live life like an essay, you can achieve whatever you want to achieve because you're writing the test. There's no pre-selected answers. There's no yes or no. There's no right or wrong answer. You get to shape the world in the way that you want to. And again, I want to show you guys that it is possible. You guys can write those words. And if you work together, we have a book. And we start to really change the story of the Latino community. One day, my dream is for the Latino community not only to be synonymous with familia, which is what we are right now. That's one of the positive things that people look at. A lot of negative things, unfortunately. But familia and excellence. Those are two words that should be synonymous with our community. And it starts from the ground up, because we have a lot of work to do, and a lot of people to inspire, a lot of people to motivate to go into higher education, and a lot of change to make. For me, my dad joined the Army. My mother postponed her graduate studies so that one day I could stand in front of rooms like these and build an army of young leaders that is going to go out into the community and inspire young kids to go get their graduate degrees like my mother did after my dad finished in the Army. And I promise you guys that I will not stop marching until that happens. And I hope that you guys will join me in that march, and I see a lot of really good things coming out of this room. So thank you very much. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month.